we're gonna make a 3D snowman. With a bit of planning and a little bit of elbow grease, you can totally do this at home, I promise. Now, for the snowman body, what I did was I went to the craft store and I got these styrofoam hemispheres. I got a 10-inch, an 8-inch, and a 6-inch. All right, and then what we're gonna do is on top of this sphere, we're gonna stack it up with cake, and then we're gonna carve it out, and we're gonna make a whole sphere. I covered the sphere in a little bit of aluminum foil to keep any of the little bits of styrofoam from ending up in my cake. You don't wanna eat that stuff. I'm gonna take a little buttercream. It's gonna keep the cake from sliding around. Take my first 10-inch cake. So now I'm just gonna run this around. Okay, so you cut the top off the cake so it's nice and level. Now let's get some more buttercream on there. Cakes like to move. So you don't want to put so much buttercream in here that when the cake settles, it's gonna come out the sides. All right, just so you know, carving a sphere is really hard. I might mess this up. When you're carving cake, you want to make sure you're carving cold cake. Warm cake tears a lot. As you carve, you kind of see the shape sort of emerging. Now, if you do happen to like cut off a little bit too much, it's okay, because you're gonna ice the cake later and you can fill in those inconsistencies with buttercream. Okay, I think we are ready to ice this cake. Whenever you're frosting a cake, you wanna make sure that your buttercream is relatively warm. You wanna be able to spread it and it's nice and smooth. Just get buttercream on every square inch of the cake. Now, turn it into a ball. And when you're icing a cake, you're scraping off the buttercream. Every single time, you wipe. Make sure there's no big glaring holes, because when there's holes, fondant won't cover them. Now I got it all iced and it looks like a sphere, but remember, we're gonna put 2 more spheres on top of this. So I wanna make sure I have a nice flat surface to put the next sphere on. So we're gonna get this top off. Grab a little bit more buttercream. I'm gonna put this in the freezer to get the cake nice and cold, stays really firm, and the fondant goes on much easier. All right, our sphere is nice and firm. Now we're gonna roll out some fondant and cover this guy. A rolling pin and some cornstarch. Use a good amount, you don't want it to stick. But listen, when you're working with fondant, you wanna work with conviction. Roll the fondant out, get it onto your cake, and get it smoothed out as quickly as possible. The longer it takes, the more it dries out, the more it dries out. You're gonna get little wrinkles, you're gonna get little tears, you just wanna work fast, but clean. There you go. I'm gonna carve a little hole here so it's gonna fit on the pole. Pull that piece out. All right, so I got the base that I built. It's just a piece of wood. I got my 3 cakes. Let's build a snowman. Cake number 1. Now the trick is to feed this on without the pole going through the actual cake and coming out the side. Okay, there we go. When you're building this cake, first you want to poke a hole in the styrofoam, because that's where your central pole is going to go. And then you're going to lay your cake on top of that. So when you put the cake onto the pole goes all the way through and it's not displacing anything. Now from here, you got a blank canvas. You can go any direction you want. Let's make some of the other decorations. So with gum paste, you can make almost anything. You let it dry for a day or 2, and then you can pick it up, and it's like plastic. Then you can shape it, you can sand it down, you can airbrush it, you can drill holes in it. Fondant will never really get that hard, and also it will never really get that strong. What I like about cakes like this is that they got a lot of personality. There's a lot of cakes in the world, probably a lot of cakes with a picture of a snowman on top of it. The world needs those cakes, but the world also needs 3D snowmen that you put dry ice in their pipes and they smoke. And there you go. He's smoking. Merry Christmas. All right, so for how to make the elements in this cake and more, go to foodnetwork.com/DuffSweetSpot.